So we're going to dive into Lunar Magic today and just kind of get ourselves familiar with the interface. And primarily today we're just going to look at level designing and seeing what Lunar Magic can really do in a relatively short amount of time. You can start to figure it out, especially if you have experience with Super Mario Maker. So to be able to follow along with all of this, you need to have two things. First off, you should have Lunar Magic installed on your computer, and the second thing is a clean ROM in which to work on, or hack if you will. Right, so on the right here, as you can see, I already have Lunar Magic open. So the first thing you're going to want to do is open up a ROM. So I just picked a clean ROM. What you can do is take a clean Super Mario World ROM, and I just duplicate it and rename the new one for whatever project I'm working on. Yoshi Island 1. So you already are starting with the ability to see the whole level. If you scroll to the right, you can see how the level is set up. There's a checkpoint, and keep going, and then there's the end goal. So this is a complete level that we can work with. So remembering that we are playing level 105, and that is Yoshi Island 1, is going to be important later when we go to play test this. Okay, so to begin, let's look at the tools that we have up above here. So over here to the left, the first tools you see are your basic file commands. Open a recent file, open a specific level. So if you know what level you want to open, you can open that. And then the save button. And over here we have undo and redo. Now for what we're doing today, the next 5 buttons are going to be the main buttons that we will be working with in our level creation. The first of these 5 buttons that we're going to be working with today is Layer 1 Editing Mode. This is the mode that we're going to want when dealing with objects, specifically things like bushes and the ground. The next button is the Layer 2 Editing Mode, which we will not be using today, so we won't worry about that. Then we have the Sprite Editing Mode. That is going to be important when we are changing and editing sprites. And sprites are going to be things like the Koopa here. Mario is a sprite, and so is this big giant bonsai bill. So when we are dealing with sprites, adding them and deleting them, we'll be using this button, the little turtle shell up at top. Now the next button to the right is Open Add Objects window. And then the one next to that is Add Sprites window. Both of these you're going to want to click on and windows will open. Alright, so you can see now, after having pressed those buttons, I've made it visible the 2 windows that should have opened. The Add Objects window and then the Add Sprites window. So these buttons here are going to be the main buttons that we use today in editing this level and just tinkering around and getting used to the Lunar Magic interface. We'll briefly go through these other buttons and sections and give an overview of what they do, but these will be discussed and covered in depth in future tutorials. These first 2 deal with customizing the graphics of sprites and other objects in the level. The third one here that looks like a leaf, that is the background layer editor, so this will allow you to edit your backgrounds if you want to put specialized pictures in there. The 4th button will open up the overworld editor. This is a very huge topic and a very important part of Lunar Magic and creating your ROM hack. Last in this category is the palette editor, which will allow you to change overall color schemes in the level. Next, we have the zoom in button, which will allow you to zoom in and out. And then we have this Yoshi berry here, which turns animations on and off. So the only thing I think in this level where you can really notice that is when the animation is on, you can see the animation of the dragon coin or the Yoshi coin and see how it's glimmering. Otherwise, you have it off, it's just a flat color. So this right now isn't going to be important to have on or off. Now to the right of that we have these mushrooms, and these mushrooms all deal with different aspects of graphics and graphic index, as well as changing different special graphics. Those will not be discussed today, but those are definitely more advanced techniques that will be discussed in the future. So after the mushrooms, we have these doors. These are all used specifically for entrances and exits from different levels and to the overworld. Today we will not be using any doors, so we won't be discussing them, and in the future, exits, entrances, doors, and pipes will all be discussed in depth. And the rest of these buttons all deal with more advanced settings that we won't be dealing with, so we don't need to worry about them today. Alright, so now that we've gotten through all the technical stuff, let's just jump right in to editing. So since this is our first day and we're just trying to get exposure to Lunar Magic and kind of tinker around and see what we can do, we're going to take this basic level, 105, and we're going to edit it and do what we want with it and just kind of play around. So to begin with, we'll start by selecting the Layer 1 editing mode. This will allow us to edit and change different objects, but not sprites. So let's start with this object. Say we don't want this object. Simply select it and hit delete. And you can do that with any number of objects, including the ground here. So we can delete the ground completely. So let's do that. But then Mario's got no place to stand. So let's see what we can do to add some ground. Let's add some earth here. Objects window, you can see all the different objects that we can add, and you can simply scroll through and see what there is available. Right now I'm looking for some ground and earth, so let's see if we can find something that'll work. Well, gray cement blocks, that can work. So now that we've looked through and we found gray cement blocks, we're going to select it by hitting it with the left button in the Add Objects window. We then come over to Lunar Magic, the main window, and we right click, and that will paste it and keep it currently highlighted. So if I pull out, it duplicates the object up to its maximum. So that's the maximum amount of squares you can do with any object. But if I just want one, I can come to one like that. So I still have this selected. I can press right click again, I can right click again, and it'll bring up new gray cement blocks. So now say I want to make this a path for Mario. We simply click to the left and I can make it just one row. Now Mario has a place to stand and a path in which we can start building. Now let's see what other objects there are we have to build. Alright, so here we have some earth as well. We have different slopes to build our surroundings, gradual slopes, steep slopes, and then we've got edges as well as blocks to make proper earth corners. Let's try that. Okay, so we're going to make a solid left and top edge. We left clicked it in objects. Now we'll right click here. Alright, now that isn't really big enough, so we want to see if we can expand that. We can expand it down, but not to the right. So we need to connect a piece with that. So ledge will work, so we'll left click ledge, and then we can build and simply drag, and there you go. Now we can make this other ledge by putting it up here. So now we made some earth for our little dinosaur friend to stand and the turtle to be able to go. So I suggest you spend some time here messing around with different aspects and see what you can build. But for now we won't do enemies, we will deal with enemies in a little bit. Alright, let's do some building. So I've added some elements here to show some different things to keep in mind and work on when you're building that may arise. So first things first, let's look at what we did here. I built a pipe, I put a background image and some rope over that background image. So say you don't like the way this pipe looks and you want it coming out of the gray cement blocks. So that in order to do that, you want the pipe to be behind the image of the cement block. So to do this, a quick and easy way, a hotkey or shortcut on your keyboard is to simply hit the minus sign, which will send it backwards, or the plus sign to bring it forward. So if you see there, I hit the minus sign and it pushed the image back. Now if you look, it's behind the gray cement block. So now we can do the same thing here with the rope. Alright, so we break here again to point out some other important aspects. So for example, some of these objects are actually made up of multiple objects. See, for example, these are 4 objects. But I wanted to move the whole thing down, so you can just left click and drag to highlight and select all the objects, and then you can move them all together. That's one. Alright, so now we've reached another issue that is important to note. If you have an object that is long and you go below the screen, at a certain point it starts to wrap it, and in the next scene it will start to come down from the top. So when you have that problem, all you need to do is to shorten up your object and then place it there. Alright, so we'll add some more pipes and go to the checkpoint, and then we'll go back and we'll start adding sprites. Alright, now that we have a basic path built all the way to the midway point, the midway checkpoint, we'll go back and add some sprites. But before we do that, there is one object that we do want to add, which is a bullet machine. So right now these bullet machines are just stationary objects, just like the pipes and the bricks. That's why they aren't considered sprites, is that they don't actually move. So later on we're going to have to add the bullets to it, which that's what we'll be getting into next. Alright, so now that we've laid down some objects, we've tested out how to do some water, we've done some earth, we've done some transparent objects, moving them to the foreground and background. What we're going to move to next is to take a look at sprites. So sprites are enemies and objects that have some sort of animation and interaction with them. So to switch over to our sprite editing mode, we go up here to the top again to these 3 buttons, and we're going to click on the turtle shell. So the turtle shell now puts us in sprite editing mode. So here we can now click on sprites. So if you notice, you click on the turtle because it's a sprite, and I can now move it around. And depending on how your Lunar Magic is set up, a lot of times you can hover over these sprites and it'll give you information about them. Alright, but say I don't want to use that, I just hit delete like we did with objects. But now notice objects like this pipe, if you go to select them, the pipe, the bricks, or the rope, or ground, you won't be able to. You can only select sprites when you're in this mode. So let's have a look at some of the sprites that we can grab. Alright, so the big giant bonsai bill is a sprite, so are the dinosaurs, and then so are these moving blocks, these flying blocks. We now go over to our add sprites window, and this is where you're going to find all the sprites for this level that you can add. Now today we're just going to be dealing with these sprites. In the future we'll go over topics such as being able to pull in different sprites from different types of levels, but that can get complicated and that can cause errors. So for the moment, let's just deal with the sprites that came up when we opened our add sprite window. So initially, as you'll see, you'll have all the different Koopa forms, a green Koopa, red, blue, yellow, and then with a shell and without a shell, and then flying, and then jumping. And you continue down, you'll see we've got keyholes, which we'll deal with in future tutorials when we deal with entrances and exits and secondary exits. For now, let's look more at the enemies, like the Goomba, as well as, oh look, we've got our little baby Yoshis and a big Yoshi. We've also got springs, ooh, and our favorite piranha plants. So just take some time to go through this list here. You've got springboards, all your power-ups you'll have in here. Today we're not going to worry about our goal points. We're just going to use the ones that are already in this level. And see, we've got more flying up. We've also got some floating platforms. And, ooh, we got the charging chucks as well as some hammer brothers. So those are kind of your basic, straightforward sprites. Then you'll start to get into areas that say things like display text and have words. These are going to be a little more advanced. Right now, spend some time just messing around, placing some split and chucks, some platforms, some turtles. Let's just kind of place them around on the level a little bit before we get to more complex things. Alright, so now we've kind of placed some basic sprites. We put a piranha plant, kind of same as if you've ever done Super Mario Maker. You just kind of make your level, put your pieces together, put your enemies where you want. We'll be doing some playtesting a little bit later to see what your level kind of looks like and see how it goes. But like I said before, those are your basic sprites. Now we're going to get to some more complicated aspects of sprites, but we aren't going to dive too deep into the subject. But here we are with our bullet blasters. So we're going to go to our sprites, and we're going to end up adding bullets to these bullet blasters. So here we go through sprites, and you see Bullet Bill. Now you might think that Bullet Bill is what you'd place. We place Bullet Bill, and just drag it there, and that'll shoot bullets. But this is just one bullet bill. So this is one bullet that when the character on-screens it, it'll be firing. And that's it. It's not going to be repeated like a cannon should. Okay? So there we go. We'll just place that so that when we test play the level, we can see the difference. So what you're going to want to do is continue going down to that section where we stopped a little bit earlier, where things started to have words and look a little more complicated. Ooh, let's get a Mega Mole. Forgot a Mega Mole. It's always a good dick thing to throw in a level, right? Alright. Got Mega Mole before the checkpoint. Okay, let's go back to our bullet blasters. So what you'll see is, these have stars on them. And stars mean that they're generators and that they're going to shoot. And these generators can be turned on and off with some of these other sprites, which we won't be going into today, but in the future we will go over some of these subjects with how to turn generators on and off for different animations. And then we're going to take the Bullet Bill shooter, it's just the normal one, and put it over this. And this way we can see the differences that come from these different types of generators with the bullet bills when we go to playtest our level. So getting into these more advanced sprites of generators so that you have the bullet bills and the shooters shooting, those are the most advanced things we're going to work on today. So now that we have learned how to place objects and sprites, we have enough basic tools to effectively edit and create our own level from this template that we have. So I recommend now spending some time creating a level here in Yoshi's Island 1, just using the techniques that we've gone over so far. And when you feel like you have a level you want to see and test play, continue with this video. Alright, so there I am done. So I've effectively done what I wanted to do with this level. I just put a bunch of different elements just to test out how they look, how they feel. Not trying to make anything stellar here. So this all done pretty quickly, 5-10 minutes. So this is just kind of to show you what you can do just dipping your toes in. Lunar Magic, not even anything that difficult, but just starting to play around. So once you get to this point where you feel like, okay, you've got a level, if you want to test it and play it though to see if it actually works. So the first thing you have to do is save. So you can use the little save icon right here, or you can go to File and say Save Level to ROM. Alright, so now that you have your level saved to your ROM, you can actually test play this exact level immediately. All you have to do is open up the ROM that you saved it to like you would any other ROM. If you didn't change anything when you first entered and you opened it up just like I did, you see this level is 105. If you look down here, it'll say at the beginning is entrance to level 105. So level 105 is Yoshi Island 1. It's the first level on the left after you get through the introduction screen of Mario World. So you can now simply open up your ROM and play this. So this is the ROM that I just saved that level to. So you open it up in your emulator like you would any other way. And so we're just going to start the ROM and let's see. So this first screen should be the same as the normal game would be because we didn't edit this, although in the future we will go over how to edit these text boxes so you can put in any asinine comment you want. But we can just skip Yoshi's house because the level we edited was the one to the left, Yoshi's Island 1. So we didn't do anything with this overworld map, all we did was edit the actual level Yoshi's Island 1. So let's select that and let's see. Yep, and these are the changes we made. So here you are, playing, the level that we just made. So with all that basic, from having never done anything, those simple tools, here you are, and you've made your first ROM hack. It's as simple as that using Lunar Magic. Whoa! But still gotta be decent at the game to play it. Alright. I put plenty of power-ups in mind to make sure I'd survive. But here, let's look at the different things that we made. So remember the bullet generators. So here you can see what the different bullet generators do. The single bullet generator with a single bullet makes one bullet come out of here. The multiple one makes them run across the screen and not actually come out of the bullet maker. So that's important to know. But this is how you would play test and see what the different elements do. And there's our big mole. Ooh. Alright, now we hit our checkpoint. So now if we die, we'll still start back there. Alright, so there we died, came back, and we started the checkpoint. But so after even just a short period of time, half hour to an hour, of getting Lunar Magic up and running, you can start making and creating your own levels. Oh, okay. There we go. Ah! So that'll be it for today's kind of mini tutorial. So if you found this tutorial to be helpful, or you had your own hints, tips, and tricks you wanted to share, please be sure to leave a comment down below. So until next time, happy ROM hacking.